Hello and welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are going to be learning how to make a garden harvest cake. Okay, welcome back to the kitchens where we will be doing our lab on garden harvest cake. A garden harvest cake is what we'll be doing today. And you're going to want to start out, as you always do, by washing your hands. That's what this soap for is over here. Make sure you get a nice good lather going in between, under the nails, on the tops or on the thumbs, on the inside. Go ahead and rinse them off. In your towels, your big towel is for drying your hands. The smaller towel is for washing, where you can shut off the sink if you need to. Also make sure that you fill your sanitizing bucket with warm water. Doesn't have to be full all the way, but you should definitely fill it about halfway or more. Alright, to start off, we want to make sure that you wash your hands, you want to make sure you filled your bucket, wipe down your sink with your sanitizing rag, and then you can go ahead and get out your supplies. So you're always going to find your supplies underneath the sink, in your gray tub. Let's go through them, make sure that we have everything that we should have. And you can always check by using your kitchen lab here. Your lab ingredients and your lab equipment will all be on your checklist, and that of course is the duty of the line chef. So the line chef should be going through this material as you come into your kitchens. So it looks like equipment-wise, we need a liquid measuring cup. Check. We need a 1 cup, a 3/4 cup, a 1/2 cup, and a 1/4 cup. Let's see if we have that. Okay, so we don't have the 3/4 cup, but we can substitute by using the 1/4 and the 1/2, because of course we know a 1/4 and a 1/2 makes 3/4. So we have all of the cups that we need for dry ingredients. We also need a teaspoon and a 1/4 teaspoon. And they're down here as well. So here are the 1/4 teaspoon and the teaspoon. They are labeled for us. We need a large mixing bowl. We have that. We have a small mixing bowl. Both of those are good. We have our 4x8 loaf pan. We have a cooling rack. We have our grater. We have a whisk. We have a kitchen knife. We have a rubber scraper. A dinner plate. We need to add this to the list, but we also have our cutting board. And by the way, I said dinner knife, but we don't have that. We don't have our kitchen knife, but we have our dinner plate. And we need to get a bread knife we have, so we need to get a kitchen knife as well for this. And that's the one thing we're missing besides a toothpick. So we'll get those and be right back. Okay, we found our kitchen knife and we found our toothpick, so we can put our tub away. This will now be for dirty dishes and dirty dishes only. Let's go through the list of ingredients that we need for this. You're going to need flour. You're going to need sugar. You're going to need ground cinnamon. You're going to need baking soda. You're going to need salt. You're going to need at least 1 apple. You're going to need probably 2 to 3 carrots. some zucchini. The walnuts are optional. If someone in your group is allergic to nuts, please do not even come near these, okay? You're also going to need some canola oil. You're going to need some buttermilk. You're going to need 2 large eggs. And also going to need a little spray for your pan. Alright, our first steps as we follow down our steps on our lab plan is to go ahead and get out all the materials, which we've done. And then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and preheat the oven to 350. So make sure you hit bake. It starts on 350, at least in Kitchen 5. Make sure I hit the start button. When I see that it's on, I know that it's preheating. It'll tell me the temperature that it's at, and this one's already been preheating, so this is ready to go at 350, but it'll keep telling you the temperature in your oven until it rises to the correct temperature for you. The next step is to get out the large mixing bowl. That's this bowl here, so we'll get that out and set it off to the side. Then we're going to want to get out and add a cup of flour to the large mixing bowl. So this is my flour. Remember we talked about measuring flour. When you're measuring flour, you want to make sure that you use the cups. You want to make sure that you get more than you need. You don't want to add the flour to your mixing bowl until you've tapped the side of it, taken a knife, scraped off the top. Once you're good, you can go ahead and add it to your mixing bowl. Make sure all of the flour that was in the cup comes out into your mixing bowl. Our next step says that we are going to add 3/4 cup of sugar. So I'm going to take my sugar out next, and I know that I'm going to add 3/4 cup. Remember, we don't have a 3/4 cup, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1/2 cup. Same thing as before. I make sure that I have more than I need. I tap the side. I use my knife to level off the top, and then I pour this into my bowl. Now I need my 1/4 cup because we need a 3/4 cup, so a 1/2 and a 1/4 makes 3/4. I do the same thing as I did before. A little bit of a mound, give the side a tap, scrape off the top, pour it in. That gives me 3/4 cup of sugar, and I added that to the large mixing bowl. Then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. So I get my cinnamon out, I get my teaspoon out. I only have 1 teaspoon, so I know that I'm going to need to add 2 of those. Same thing as I did with the sugar and the flour. I'm going to put more than I need into the teaspoon. Then I'm going to take my knife, and I can level this right off the top, and it'll go right back in. There's 1. Same thing again. Give it a little tap. Slide off the top, extra. Add that, there's 2. And now we flip over to the back. On the back, it says that we need to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I find my 1 teaspoon, I find my baking soda. Go ahead and open it up. Same as all the other dry ingredients. Make sure that I have more than I need. Little tap. Take the top off. Go ahead and add that to my mixing bowl. And we're now down to step 8, where I add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So now I have my 1/4 teaspoon, I have my salt. I go ahead and I fill my salt in my 1/4 teaspoon, scrape off the top, go ahead and dump that in. And now I add my 1/4 teaspoon, and it says get out the whisk and begin whisking the ingredients until they're all completely mixed in the bowl. So this is my whisk, this is my bowl, and what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to mix everything up. You can tell the color of the flour changed a little bit. The cinnamon has been mixed in, the sugar has been mixed in with the flour, and there's nowhere where I can see any kind of separation when I move it around. So that is all whisked and mixed in together. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off my chopping board here, or my cutting board. And now I'm ready for my granny apple. So I'm going to want to get out my dinner plate. I'm going to want to get out my granny apple. I'm going to want to get out my grater. And all you're going to do now is start grating the apple. And the side of the grater that you're going to want to use is this side of the grater. Okay? And we're just going to start grating the granny apple. Before we do, if you're not sure if your product has been rinsed off, go ahead and rinse that off. Remove any stickers that you might see on it. And we're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and begin to grate the apple. One of the things I wanted to mention while grating is you want to make sure that you're very careful of your fingers. This grater will take your skin just as well as it takes this apple skin. So as you're holding the apple or the carrots or even the zucchini, you want to make sure you hold it with your knuckles farther forward than your fingernails. Okay, you want to make sure that you're knuckling it in a sense. And when you set the grater down, you're going to set it down and you're just going to slide it back and forth, and as it gets close to the core, you want to find a new side. Then once you feel like you've got a lot built up underneath the grater, you can give it a little tap, and with that, we know that we got some built up, and we only need a half a cup here. So we're going to take it, and as it starts to fill up, we're just going to take our dinner plate, use our fingers, just kind of keep smashing it in there. So it looks like I can get a little more out of this apple. I'm going to go ahead and do so. Remember I talked about sticky items? You want to just kind of press that in. And it looks like you got a little bit hanging off the edge. You can use a knife to just kind of smash it in. And then if I read the directions closely, it says once I've shredded the apple and I've added it to my measuring cup and I know that I have a half a cup, I can go ahead and take that half a cup and add it to the large mixing bowl, which has already been whisked. So now I'm going to add this to the mixing bowl, and I want to make sure that all my ingredients come out into my large mixing bowl. As you can see, everything came out, so I added a half a cup to my large mixing bowl. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to repeat this same exact thing, and we are going to do it for the carrots, and we're also going to do it for the zucchini. So that's our very next step. Before I get there though, what I want to go ahead and do is I want to take my apple, and I'm going to stick my apple that we no longer need into my compost bin. And then I'm going to take both my grater and my dinner plate, and I'm going to rinse these off. They don't need to be washed. You just kind of want to rinse off the ingredients that were already on it. And the next thing I'm going to start with are my carrots. As you can see with my carrots here, they aren't ready yet, so I'm going to rinse them off. I'm going to take the tops off of them, and then I'm going to do that same exact thing. Alright, as you can see here, I'm grating my carrots. I just wanted to show you how to grate the carrots. Once again, I'm using my fingers, but their knuckles are bent or closer to the grater than my actual fingernails are. And I'm just sliding down the side and going up and down on it. And as soon as it looks like my fingernails are starting to get close to it, that means I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to slide my fingers back. And in order to get a half cup, I'm going to figure that we're probably going to use about 2 to 3 carrots. So this one's pretty close to the bottom. I don't mind giving that one to the compost. I get my next larger one out that I feel more comfortable using. That way my fingers aren't going to get cut or become part of this delicious cake. And I'm thinking that I might be close, so I go ahead and I lift it up. All of the grated carrot comes out. I have my measuring cup. I can now start adding it to my measuring cup. Remember, you can pack it in there. So I had plenty with just about 2 carrots. Use my knife. Kind of pack it in there. Maybe add a little more. Okay, half a cup, just like with the apples. I measured it, I packed it in there, I topped the top. We are good to go. I'm going to flip this over and get about as much of that out as I can. Okay, carrots are done. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off, rinse the grater off, and then we have our zucchini. Okay, I've been working on the zucchini here for a little bit, and there's a couple things I wanted to go over. First, how to hold the zucchini. You want to make sure that you hold it with your fingers back, your knuckles forward, and then you just kind of, same thing as the carrots, slide it up and down until it grates. As you can see here, I'm pretty sure I got more than enough. If you slide your hand across the grate sideways, you can pull some of this off. I wouldn't recommend going up and down because you could cut your hand, but you can definitely pull it off to the side, give it a little tap on the dinner plate or on the cutting board. That works as well. And then I get your half cup out, and you start measuring it, pack it in there. Take the top off of it. Pack it in there some more maybe. We're good to go. Dump it in there. Get all of it out. And now one of the things I wanted to go over rather quickly with you is if you can get the majority off of the grater onto the dinner plate, instead of taking the dinner plate and just rinsing it immediately, it is going to be much easier on your group and especially on your head chef who is going to be in charge of cleaning the sink and stuff. If you just take it over here to the compost, you go ahead and just slide it in that compost and get as much of it out as you can. That way, when you do end up rinsing it off in the sink, you don't end up with all of this in your drain, because all of this in your drain means that you're going to have to dig in your drain with your fingers and get all of that stuff out. So if you can avoid that by wiping it off into the counter or wiping it off into the compost, you're going to make everyone's job a little easier. Okay, we've added our carrots, we've added our zucchini, we've added our apple, and now it says just mix it up. And so I'm going to take our whisk, and again, all I'm trying to do is mix all of our ingredients equally. Try to keep as much of it as you can in the bowl. As you can see here, some of it's getting stuck in the whisk. Just give that whisk a little tap. And I might even recommend taking your rubber scraper here and kind of just mixing some of it with that as well. See here, almost everything is completely mixed in. So I say we're ready to go on to the next step. Okay, as you can see here, our large bowl, is mixed up. Everything is ready to go on this side. So I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm going to get out our small bowl, and with our small bowl, I have to add some liquids to it. So I'm going to take my measuring pitcher here. I'm going to find where it says a fourth because I'm adding a fourth of pure canola oil. And I'm going to get an eyesight with the fourth. And I'm just going to add the oil to it until it's right there. I know I'm good to go. I checked it at eyesight. It's on a level surface. It's the lowest point of the liquid, so it's at the quarter. Once again, we don't want to check it above, we want to check it below, we don't want to hold it in our hand when we check it. So now we know we're good. We can just pour that right in there. Try to get as much of that as you can in. Even use your scraper if you want to. Get a little more of that in there. Now we're going to do the same thing with our buttermilk. Try to do that with the buttermilk and make sure that we are adding the right amount. A fourth cup of buttermilk as well. Remember, if you pour too much canola oil or the buttermilk, make sure that you pour it into the sink if you have too much. Then go ahead and take that buttermilk, add that as well. And now we have 2 eggs to add. 2 eggs. Take it, crack it on the side, open it up. I added 1 egg, I'm going to add 1 more egg to it. Careful you don't get any shell in there. If you get a shell, you're going to want to dig that out. Take your shells, put them in your compost bin. And now you're ready to whisk. So you're going to take it and you're just going to whisk it up until as much of it is mixed as possible. Make sure you break the yolk with the whisk. So you got a nice good mixture here going on. Okay, that seems to be whisked pretty well, mixed up pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my large bowl. If I look down at my directions, once I have mixed up my small bowl, I take my ingredients from my small bowl and I add it into my large bowl. And when you're transferring bowls like this, it's important to make sure that you get all of your ingredients out of the one bowl, or as much as you can, into the next bowl. Otherwise you're going to leave a little bit behind, and sooner or later you're going to find out that your recipe isn't the original recipe you were following. So now I have both the small bowl and the large bowl together. I'm going to get the whisk back out again, and I'm going to whisk the large bowl and make sure that all the ingredients are equally mixed until a nice batter has been created. Remember, if you tap on the side of the whisk, most of the ingredients that are still in the whisk should come out. Don't be afraid to use the rubber scraper either. Just kind of get the stuff off the edges and side. Looks like this is pretty well mixed up. And our next step, we are going to get out our 4x8 loaf pan. We're going to spray it with some cooking spray until there's a nice coating. And then we're going to pour our ingredients from our large bowl into our loaf pan. So here is our loaf pan, and over here is our spray. Give it a little shake, take it, put a nice coating on it. We're going to make sure that nothing is going to stick to this. So now we can take our large bowl. We just want to go ahead and pour it into our loaf pan. Remember, you want to get as much of the ingredients out as you can. So as you can see there, I got a large part of it out. I look over at the directions again. Once I have my loaf pan ready and my ingredients are poured into it, I can go ahead and place that loaf pan into the oven at 350 degrees for 50 minutes. So I'm going to go and I'll be right back in a second. Now that I found my oven mitt, I'm ready to go ahead and open my door. I'm going to stand off to the side. Please make sure that the rest of your group is out of the kitchen while you're opening this so no one accidentally trips or falls into the oven. Go ahead and open that oven door. Let that hot air roll out. Reach in, grab your oven rack, pull it out, grab your loaf pan here with your ingredients inside of it, set it in the middle, slide it back in, lift up, and then you can go ahead and set your timer. Your cook timer, kitchen timer, is going to be set for 50 minutes. Once it's set, you can go ahead and start the cleanup process from the mess you created. And you're going to do that by simply grabbing your gray tub and start throwing stuff in it. Because everything can be cleaned while you're waiting. Any leftovers like this, go ahead and put in the compost bin. We're still going to need our toothpick, so I'm going to set that onto the counter. Any of the ingredients that weren't used can be brought back up. Anything that's dirty, that needs washed, can go into the gray tub. And then you'll just have to wait. Okay, now that our timer's going off, what I simply want to do is come over here and shut the kitchen timer off. Open up the oven door from the side. Take my glove, go ahead and pull this out, and before I completely remove it out of the oven, I want to check it, and that's what the toothpick's for. And what you're going to do to check it is you're going to take your toothpick and you're going to stick it into the center of your harvest cake. If it comes out and it's clean, then your harvest cake is done. But if when you stick it in, some of the batter comes out with it, or some pieces get stuck to it, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to slide it back in and try probably about another 3 to 5 minutes. So as you can see with our toothpick, this one came out well. Everything looks good. We're now going to simply take this, set it up on top of our oven, and let it cool off until it's cool to the touch. Once the pan is cool to the touch, we will then be able to put it on our cooling rack. We can shut off our oven now. Once your pan is cooled for somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, and you can easily touch the pan without getting burned or without it feeling like it's too hot, you're going to want to go ahead and place your loaf, your garden cake loaf, onto the cooling rack. And the way you're going to do that is just by coming over to the side, gently removing it and rolling it over onto the cooling rack. And then you're going to let this continue to cool off in the cooling rack for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And then once it's cooled off, that's when you can serve it.